I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is an open meeting of the Seward, Nebraska governing body. The city of Seward abides by the Nebraska Open Meetings Act in conducting business. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is displayed on the north wall of this meeting room facility as required. Disclosure of meeting recording processes is posted in the meeting room. A participant sign-in sheet is available for use by any citizen addressing the council. Presenters shall approach the podium, state their name and address for the clerk's record, and are asked to limit remarks to 5 minutes. All remarks shall be directed to the mayor, who shall determine by whom any appropriate response shall be made. The city of Seward reserves the right to adjust the order of items on this agenda as necessary and may elect to take action on any of the items listed. Please call the roll.
Beck.
Here.
Colterman.
Present.
Streisand. Here. Campereth. Here. Hendricks.
Here.
Miller. Here.
All right, the first 5 items make up this evening's consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your vote. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Beck, Campereth, Colterman, Miller, Streisand, Hendricks, 6-0.
All right, we have two public hearings this evening. The first public hearing is the presentation and discussion of functioning and progress of the Seward Economic Development Plan. Greg.
Yes, pursuant to having LB 840, we're required to have at least two meetings a year of the CARC. That is the Citizens Advisory Review Committee. It's a required statutory committee for implementation of an LB 840 program. They oversee the activities of the LB 840 committee and then the functioning of the funds in and out. They did meet in August, and we held our meeting. They reviewed everything. Just noting in there, they met on August 3rd, 2022. An LB 840 activity report was distributed to the CARC in advance of the meeting. The city administrator walked them through recent activity from January 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2022. The CARC had no questions or concerns. A copy of the general ledger reports were also included and reviewed from that same time period. The CARC felt all transactions listed in the financial reports appeared to be appropriate. I noted to them that the LB 840 program will need to be reauthorized in the spring of 2023. That will be by a vote of the people again for another sales tax. So that has to be reauthorized. And so we'll begin that discussion.
Just to clarify, it's not another sales tax, it would be
A continuation of
A
the current
renewal,
status.
like a renewal.
So to keep authorizing the program.
Because it's sunsetting in June, right?
Yep. And then they had no other questions. You can answer any questions.
any questions or comments for Greg?
So with that sunsetting in June, what's been happening with that sales tax that's been, does it still go into that fund?
It still goes into that fund, yes. So I don't know the specifics of how it would, if we were to sunset it, if those funds would just be returned. Because the sales tax, if you read the full sales tax ask, it's designed to collect for the specific amount for LB 840, which at this time is $150,000 a month. Or total,
Year.
total, a year, it's $12,500 a month. And so that is collected. The remainder of the sales tax that's collected from that half-cent sales tax is put towards the general fund to offset property taxes. And so that's specifically how it was designed originally when it was passed, not this last time.
The first one was 75,000, then in 2012, we had it, we had to renew the program, and in doing so, we asked for an additional 75,000, so it's a total of 150,000 that goes into the LB 4 is available for applicants. But yeah, and I just that's why I want to make it clear, this isn't an additional sales tax. This is what we're currently collecting, and if this weren't to succeed, we would have a serious financial problem because we rely pretty heavily on that half-cent sales tax. So I believe it's a total of full cent is what we total, is the total sales tax.
Current city sales tax is 1.5.
Right, so. Any questions? It is a public hearing, so we also have a public comment portion of the public hearing. Does anyone from the public wish to come forward and speak on this item? Please do so at this time. Seeing no one from the public, then I will close the public comment portion of the public hearing and return discussion to the council. For any questions or comments? Well, nobody is doing action that's required, so if we're good, we can move on to the next public hearing. Alright, item number 2, public hearing, ordinance to vacate a portion of, is that Summerin Estates? Summerin, alright. Subdivision plat located on the north half of the southwest quarter of section 4, township 10 north, range 3, east of the 6th prime meridian of Seward County, Nebraska. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. All right, this is a partial vacation of a plat in the ETJ that never materialized. The plat is located on South Highway 15, if you're not familiar, across from the airport, on the east side of the road there. After extensive research by city staff and the county clerk's office, a number of meetings with the applicants, the Flug Hops, we noted that none of the dedicated roads in this plat or the infrastructure were ever developed. None of the utilities were ever extended to this subdivision. And it was never given any zoning designation. It remained ag to this day. According to the comp plan for this area, it remains agricultural with no future use outlined. There is a structure on this property that is dilapidated. The Flug Hops have purchased that structure and intend to remove it once the vacate is finalized. The vacation creates a conforming ag lot, whereas the 2 existing lots in this partial subdivision now do not conform to the rural residential, or to the agricultural zoning. They conform to rural residential. With that, the planning commission unanimously recommended that we go ahead and vacate Sumerian Estates plat.
Thanks. Any questions or comments from the council? Again, this is a public hearing, so I'll open up the public comment portion of the public hearing. Would anyone from the public wish to comment on item 2? Please come forward at this time. Seeing no one wishing to comment, I will close the public comment portion of the public hearing and return to the council for any further discussion.
So this is to vacate the plat, and in that vacate, does it also vacate any of the roads at that
That
time?
were
It does it
dedicated,
all
correct.
in one setting?
Yep.
Okay.
And they were all private roadways.
Correct.
They weren't
private.
dedicated to the public. They were all privately designated roadways too.
And so will they have to replat this,
No,
so that it shows, or,
it just all goes away and becomes one big ag lot for the purpose of farming, which is what his intent is.
Any other questions or comments, or would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
I'll introduce the ordinance.
Alright, an ordinance to vacate a portion of Sumerian Estate subdivision plat located in the north half of the southwest quarter of section 4, township 10 north, range 3, east of the 6 p.m. Seward County, Nebraska is hereinafter set forth to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form, to provide for a time when this ordinance shall take effect. The ordinance has been read by title and is designated as ordinance number 2022-22, and the title is hereby approved. I need a motion to dispense with the statutory rule.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Beck, Camperth, Colterman, Miller, Streisand, Hendricks, 6-0.
Again, this is ordinance number 2022-22. Would anyone like to move that this ordinance be passed and adopted as read?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question is, shall ordinance number 2022 be finally passed and adopted? Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Beck, Camperth, Coltman, Miller, Streisand, Hendricks, 6-0.
This is the only ordinance this evening, so I'll need one final motion to make the ordinance a part of the permanent record.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Beck, Camperth, Coltman, Miller, Streisand, Hendricks, 6-0.
Alright, thank you, Tim. First administrative item this evening is consideration of a resolution to revise fees for contractor licensing. Welcome back, Tim.
Thank you. All right, this is a request that came about from a number of licensed electricians that were registered to do work within the city of Seward. Back on April 14th of 2019, the city mailed out a letter to all the registered electricians for the city of Seward, informing them that the building department would no longer be doing inspections, inspections or licensing for electricians, that would be done by the state of Nebraska Electrical Board. Unlike licensing for mechanical and plumbing, electrical licenses are performed at the state level, and all they do is give us a copy of that. Without the city doing any of the licensing, permitting, or inspections for electrical work within the city, a lot of the electricians felt we were double charging them because they were paying fees at the state level for inspections and permits, and then we were still charging them a fee to register within the city of Seward that was equivalent to what we do with plumbers and mechanical, where we do license and do all their permitting and inspections. With that, we looked at the fees, we looked at the time spent by the building department staff to just register the plumbers, the materials it took, and that's where we came up with the fee that we present before you.
Electricians.
I'm sorry, electricians, my apologies.
Any questions or comments for Tim?
That's good.
There's a resolution, so unless you have any questions or comments, I'd ask for someone to introduce the resolution.
I'll introduce the resolution.
The resolution has been introduced and it's designated as resolution number 2022-31. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
So moved. Second.
The motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Beck, Camperth, Coltman, Miller, Streisand, Hendricks, 6-0.
Alright, item number 2 is consideration of a commercial ground lease with Mini Ventures Mining LLC within the Seward Rail campus. Greg.
Yes, we were approached by Ben Benson and Mini Ventures Mining LLC to look at an opportunity. Originally, they were looking at an opportunity to do some data mining, predominantly in cryptocurrency, but the application can be used in other things. And looking at areas around Seward and Seward County. In those discussions, we came up with the best opportunity for the city that's the most efficient is to locate this next to a current substation that has the capacity to take on something like this. We're looking upwards of almost a 0.5 megawatt for a container that would utilize blockchain and cryptocurrency and some of those data miners. And so in those discussions, Mr. Benson approached the city and would like to look at leasing for a period of up to 5 years. I think it's approximately 1/3 of an acre that Lot 10 makes up now. This was administratively replat. It sits directly west of the current substation. It is zoned our heaviest industrial, correct, Tim? I2, which is, I mean, you can do strip mining and all kinds of crazy stuff in I2. And so it's the appropriate use rather than putting it in an agricultural area or a commercial area or a lighter industrial area, which are some of the areas that he was originally looking for. The benefit to the city, the loss to the city is obviously the use of the agricultural land. And I think that the rent charge is fair for that loss. But the benefit to the city is if the data mining can be performed at the load factors that we predominantly see in these facilities, we see significant revenue generating on the electrical side. So again, running at 98% capacity at 0.5 megawatt is pretty significant when we're a 25 megawatt city total, and so that can help on that. The lease does require that at the point that it is terminated, it just renews for 1 year after the first year, or the first 5-year term. We can terminate, and the ground just goes right back to farmland. He has to return it to its original state. Predominantly, you're just gonna see rock and probably some concrete foundational work underneath the containers and a fence. So, not a substantial amount of work to be done to remove it all and take it off site. We do have a 1-year termination notice in there, and that's due to the nature of the contracts for data mining that you predominantly sign are for a year's contract for electrical purchase, so. Kelly drafted this up, I made some adjustments on it and reviewed it with Mr. Benson, and so I think all the terms are good. It's pretty bare bones. So, Kelly, anything to add beyond that? That's where we're at. I can answer any questions you have.
Was there a shipping container ordinance thing?
They're, in I-2, they're allowed.
They're allowed in I two?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments for Greg? You just require a simple motion when you're ready.
So move.
Second.
And move to approve.
Yeah,
Second.
move to approve,
Okay.
yes.
And second, any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Beck, Camperth, Coltman, Miller, Streisand, Hendricks, 6-0.
Alright, item 3, authorization to execute an amendment to the professional engineering services agreement with the Shimmer Associates Incorporated for preliminary and final design of storm sewer improvements for Park Avenue, 6th to 8th Streets, and Bradford Street, 5th to 10th Streets. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Good evening. So we have a contract with Shemmer Associates to design initially 2 projects, the storm sewers under Park Avenue from 6th to 8th Street, and then on Bradford from 6th to 10th Street. The DOT informed us October of 2020 that those 2 storm sewer systems were deficient relative to the Highway 15 project. And so we were working on the 1 and 6 and started on this project, so that by the time the state came through in 2024, start building that new project, we had the storm sewer adequate to accept that water. So that original contract, $170,500, we have decided that we should expand that to 4 projects instead of just those 2. That's why I provide the figure here. So the first 2 are labeled 1 and 2, Park Avenue and Bradford, red and green. We've also extended, these are also projects 3 and 4, already on the 1 and 6. There's a list down at the bottom of where in the 1 and 6 year plan all four projects lie. These are two separate systems, but projects 4 and 1 are one system, and projects 3 and 2 are a second system. They're interconnected. In the latter case, 2 and 3, the highway project has to be completed between those 2 projects. And so with this amendment that you have before you in the amount of $99,816.71, it's actually a complete design of all 4 projects, so we're expanding that. And we're able to complete the engineering for all 4 far more efficiently, rather than bring these projects back up, have to review what was done a couple of years ago. That is the main reason for the amendment. I also included 1 sheet of the Park Avenue project. Second reason for the cost is that instead of 1 additional pipe, we now have 2 additional pipes and a large box culvert structure in the far left-hand side of that to carry the storm water from 6th Street. So that's the Cedar Street detention basin underneath 6th Street. That's the low spot in 6th Street, and of course it's carried a lot of water. So some of this was just not anticipated. The state informed us 2 years ago it'd be 1 additional 36-inch pipe. We end up we have to rebuild half of the existing 36 and add 2 more, not just 1 more. So the work is expanded quite a bit. So those are the two reasons why we're asking for approval of this amendment, the amount of $98,816.71.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions or comments from the council? Yes. Matt?
So this isn't covered, the engineering part of the Highway 15, this part is the city's responsibility,
This has been the city's responsibility, correct?
and for how long?
For all
Forever.
time, they've
Yeah.
informed us.
Yes.
For all time.
So when it comes to, the actual construction cost, that'll be the city's.
That'll be the city. So all the storm sewer along Highway 15 is covered by the state, right? So that $10 million project, paving, the right-of-way work, new facade, new sidewalk and driveway, all covered by the state. They're doubling the number of storm sewer inlets along Highway 15 from 25 roughly to 50, 52, something like that. And these two systems are what that storm sewer system needs to discharge into. There are other systems. These are the ones that were woefully undersized. So if you remember at the Civic Center to Dairy Queen, there's been a lot of ponded water. So the Bradford Street project, that's too small to pipe and too shallow. So that's getting deeper and larger in pipe. And then Park Avenue, we simply have to triple that capacity effectively to take that water.
So once the Bradford goes all the way west down the hill to Hughes Brothers at 10th and Bradford, then it goes underneath 10th Street headed north?
We let Hughes Brothers take care of that. So
Yeah,
no,
I
I'm
wonder
just
who
teasing.
that's gonna be.
It does go underground, it actually goes along, there's a storm sewer system buried, along 10th Street to the north, and then it goes, west.
Mhm.
And there's essentially a retention basin out where the curve is and at the end of the city limits.
Mhm. So that's,
Job security, Matt?
pardon me?
Job
No,
security.
there's a lot of job security at the bottom of the hill.
They actually, as part of this work, they have looked into the capacity of that system along 10th Street and feel that there's adequate capacity to take this additional storm sewer load. Park Avenue is the one that's gonna be increased substantially. This will be increased a small amount. Most of the stormwater is already collected at Roberts and Bradford and 6th Street.
Okay.
And we're just simply trying to improve the capacity and reduce the amount of ponded water. So it's not a huge capacity increase.
When we get a hard rain, Mike, I know
Yes.
where you live.
Yes,
All right.
Your project number 3,
yes,
is that primarily on the east side of those streets?
yes.
Not on the west, so it will not impact the highway?
So what the state has agreed to do, after Schemmer has worked on this, is they will leave us stubs in their projects. And then, so their project ends July 4th of 2025, hopefully. And then the second half of that year, we'll have a separate contractors will dig up those stubbed ends and then extend that one block to the east, both on Robertson and on Bradford. And we'll have inlets installed at the intersection. So it's very flat in that area, and so there's a lot of surface drainage across intersections. And so this gives us the opportunity to put some of that, utilize the new storm sewer system and put some of that underground, and so, and off the pavement.
Is there an overflow into that Park Avenue, Cedar, whatever that is, like into that detention?
There is an outlet structure, the state is modifying, are you referring to the Cedar,
Mm-hmm.
the existing, Cedar Street
It's on the
potential
south
basin?
though, right?
It's, I'm sorry,
That overflow is on the south? Is there one that faces the highway?
there's one on the highway end in the northwest corner of the basin,
Does that
but on
have
the
to be,
east side of the highway.
does that have to be altered at all?
They're
with
putting
the
in a
double
second
pipe?
one, and they're modifying the existing one, so they'll have two overflow structures at the end.
And that'll be at the state's,
That'll be the state's cost, they will do that,
okay.
so we feel this is the best way to improve storm sewer collection in conjunction with the, state highway project that we're benefiting from.
Any other questions or comments for Mike? Otherwise, this just, again, requires a simple motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Beck, Camper, Coltman, Miller, Streisand, Hendrick, 6-0.
Alright, item number 4, authorization to enter into an on-call master services agreement with HDR Engineering Incorporated for environmental services related to the Plum Creek Bridge replacement project. Mike, welcome back.
Thank you. This contract is for environmental assessment review, comprehensive, so endangered species, archaeological things, anything that may be buried there in the way. And because we are getting federal funding for that bridge, this NEPA study, NEPA is the acronym, I forget what it stands for at the moment, is required to comply with federal funding guidelines. And so we have selected HDR, that they are on a list, a short list that the state provides of 6 firms for this calendar year. And so we thought that they were the best fit, and they have submitted this contract for approval. There's a separate design contract. We've completed 30% design of the bridge with JDO. They were on the short list of design firms that the state had, and the state approved allowing JDO to continue. And this NEPA environmental review has to be done between the 30% design and the final design. So when this work gets done, then the final design happens. We think a 2 to 3 year time period for both NEPA and final design. We anticipate construction in 2025 or 2026, 100% federally funded.
Thank you, Mike. Is there any questions or comments from the council?
Motion to approve the agreement?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Beck, Camper, Coltman, Miller, Streisand, Hendrick, 6-0.
Then item 4A, consideration of a resolution to sign an environmental services agreement with HDR Engineering Associates Incorporated. Mike?
Yes, thanks, once again. So we had a bid last Tuesday for the East Seward Street improvements. This is from the city limits all the way out to Highway 34.
Oh, you skipped a 5, Mike? You
Oh,
gotta
I'm so sorry.
slow down, Mike.
That's the resolution.
You're getting paid by the hour, Mike. Just take your time. We need 4A first.
4A. Okay, so this is, so I'm familiar with my ignorance of, this is the same agreement with HDR, correct? And we simply need a separate vote for the resolution.
Yes.
Yeah. I should've, that was my
I'm-
fault. I
I'm
should've
sorry.
said, did you wanna add anything? I complicated it by making it sound like it was something new. But we do have a resolution. Is there any questions or comments from the council? Otherwise, someone would like to introduce the resolution.
I'll introduce the resolution.
All right. The resolution has been introduced and is designated as resolution number 2022-32. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Beck, Camper, Coltman, Miller, Streisand, Hendrick, 6-0.
All right. Now repeat what you just said about 5.
I thank Council Person Hendricks for stopping me before a 5-minute explanation, which I'll now give you. So for the East Seward Road Improvements Project, we had a bid date of last Tuesday. We think it's very successful. We had 5 bidders. So this is the project from the corporate limits, the city limits, on East Seward Road out there. And then it bends around to the south and joins up with Highway 34. We're gonna rename that north-south road Prairie Flower Road. And then, of course, eventually, East Seward is anticipated to continue east to Batsky Highway at some point in time as development occurs. So, there are 5 bids there from high to low. Very competitive. We believe the one issue is that all bids were above the engineer's estimate. Of course, this is not ideal, but it is par for the course currently. And so looking at breakdown, which I haven't distributed, and I just got these numbers done. Essentially on the pavement and the earthwork and the storm sewer, we were reasonably close, 14% off from that total. Wastewater, we were 61% off. Water, we were 143% off, so it was 2.5 times roughly what our estimates are. Of course, engineers' estimates are historical. We base it on past bids. We do try to inflate them. We do try to guess cost of infrastructure, valves, piping, wire, have all been escalating at a very high rate. Building materials in general, infrastructure materials in general. So we certainly have fallen quite short. So the total amount of that bid for the standard bid, so it's the center column, line 5, $2,511,888.75. We did allow an alternate material in that project. We have a few thousand feet of 24-inch trunk sewer that we're laying along the highway, and we're going to continue east as we develop. And so we want to make sure that pipe goes in prior to the housing. So this is going to extend right now in this first section to the end, to the difference between Valley View Estates, which is established, it's along Evergreen and Willow and Chestnut, and it'll end there, and of course the next segment will be to go towards Prairie Flower. And so with the alternate material, we save roughly $90,000. This is the same alternate material that we used in the wastewater plant outfall project, and so we feel confident with that material. So with that, even despite being over the engineer's estimate, we do recommend that the alternate bid amount of $2,423,166.75 for Gearing Construction be accepted and awarded.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions or comments for Mike? Go ahead.
Is there more detail on alternate material that you're speaking of?
There is more detail. It is a one-line item. But it is a, I don't have with me here, how much per foot, I guess. I think our estimate was $150 a foot, and I think it came in at $230 a foot. And so it's, this entire project is on unit costs, and then so we develop engineer estimates of quantities, and then in the end, what the city pays for is actually how many quantities are used. And so if we estimate there's 2,100 lineal feet of pipe, in the end there's only 2,000, then we don't pay the full amount, pay the installed amount, as an example. So I do have more numbers available, and whatever you might be interested in, so.
Any other questions or comments for Mike? Otherwise, it's just a simple motion.
I'll move to approve the awarding of the bid to Gearing Construction of Columbus for the alternative bid amount.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Beck, Camper, Colterman, Miller, Streisand, Hendricks, 6-0.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Item 6, authorization to increase the relief tree planting program reimbursement. Greg.
The tree board, ever since I think Councilmember Streisand's been on there, has been working to amend the relief program, and they've done a lot of work with Mike and Brent and Bob Myers to update the listing. The next element they recognized was that the amount of the current reimbursement, which I believe is up to $75, half of the cost of the maximum $75, does not buy you very much anymore. And so the recommendation from all parties involved in the committee was to up that to $150. We do not utilize these funds enough, and due to the small amount, that may be one of the reasons. The other issue is location. and you'll receive the next element of that, their final plan for location, will be the next element. And we think that will free up enough that we'll be able to move the relief program and get more people to utilize it and not have us sticking trees all over parks and stuff and public properties, because that's all we can find to utilize it. But again, one of the biggest things is for us to get trees not being planted in the right of way on top of the numerous utilities that everybody wants underground now. They just cause all kinds of different havoc, and then they ultimately end up too close to the sidewalks and replacing sidewalks. And so we're gonna start letting more of the canopy move up into the private yards and things like that, but we still see the public benefit to getting trees planted across the city. But this was the first recommendation. This actually came out at their meeting this summer, I believe, for this recommendation, and at their next meeting, they'll finalize their plan for the locations.
Any questions or comments for Greg?
I guess one comment I'd make is, all the time that I spent at tree board meetings, most of the discussion was on problem trees and which trees to take out. And it was always very difficult to encourage, property owners or, you know, obviously city was busy with other stuff. And so the trees that we did plant, you know, Parks and Rec would try to go to the local nurseries and get a great deal in the fall, because the nurseries would mark them down, and then we'd get them planted at, you know, Plum Creek or someplace like that. So now that we've got Mike and Tim looking over each relief application, so we're gonna try to keep them out of the utilities way and stuff. You know, the old part of me being on the tree board was like, it seems like we're cutting them down a lot faster than we're planting them. So we're always looking for the advocate or somebody that wants to plant them or knows of a place where we can plant them, you know. And we never wanted to be heavy-handed enough to where we actually told property owners, hey, here's your tree, guess what, it's going in right here, boom. You know, it's kinda like eminent domain or something in the eyes of the tree board. So with that being said, you know, we just never wanted to really say, hey, you have to plant this kind of tree or whatever in your private property and stuff. So I would just ask, again, as you're handling all your other duties, you know, Tim and Mike and stuff, if you see some great places where the city could plant some trees, it'd be awesome, because we're obviously cutting down a lot more trees than we're planting. So that's my little speech. I don't know if it went anywhere.
Thanks for the doom and gloom, man.
Yeah, it's not doom and gloom, because a lot of private property owners do buy trees and plant them on their own.
You can be the next door Sparks house in a Seward.
You know, Doris was, man, she was a cut above. If she heard a chainsaw, she was there. And she, you know, like with Mel Aldridge, she worked with Mel and all the guys at the city to teach them how to prune trees instead of take them down. And, you know, Mel super appreciated that and stuff. So, you know, say what you will, she was great. She believed in her trees and stuff, but yeah, I'm more worried about Mike's water coming down Bradford than chainsaws and stuff. But you know, I guess everybody's got their hand.
Is this program brought to the attention of like the new developers that are developing stuff, so they're aware of this program and stuff like that too?
I think all the builders and developers have always been, you know, target number one.
The only other thing to note is, if you just go around and look, I'm sure most of you are aware of this, that hailstorm actually decimated a number of our canopy trees, especially in the southern portion of the city, down by St. Gregory and things like that. I talked to Goldsmith, and I mean, it is gonna take forever to get out what that storm caused us. And so there'll be a lot more being removed, and we need to continue to get as much in as we can. And again, as Matt said, it's completely underutilized. So we can keep putting beaver food down by Plum Creek and battling with them, or we can start putting some more trees out in neighborhoods and areas to start getting them going, especially in the newer regions, the northern regions of the city that kind of don't have a built-up canopy yet.
Has there been public awareness of this as far as getting it out there? So
Sort of, but again, the problem, and it started when I got here with working with Matt and the committee at that time, is like, the location. People wanna put them, their yards are bigger, they're different, they're not like the traditional original town, city of Seward lots where your house is a lot closer to the front, the tree went in right by the sidewalk and it gave you shade over your whole house. Now it's, well, I want it further up, or we're like, we don't want it on, Bob goes out there and he's like, you can't put this on top of the storm sewer or the wastewater line because it's just gonna tap into it and then rip it all apart, and then we're gonna come back and have to replace it later. And so it was working through these growing pains of, we don't want giant acreages taking them, and maybe we will, at some point we may just go, if you wanna put a tree anywhere, we're Tree City USA, we wanna promote growth of trees and responsible plantings. We may start saying, hey, we'll help subsidize all of them because it's getting so bad. But this was a step to try to start moving them into private property and help cover the cost more, to continue to encourage it and keep it moving, because it's been relatively dormant. And once we get these things set, we'll use social media and all that stuff. Mindy does a great job promoting this stuff. So try to get people to come out and do it.
Do your other communities within the county utilize things like this too? Or
From
is
us or themselves, in their own
themselves?
program?
You don't know.
No, not aware. I know in Beatrice, we didn't have a program like this. We also didn't maintain the street trees either, so it's kind of everyone for themselves.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I entertain a motion.
I would motion that we authorize the increase.
Second.
Your motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Beck, Camperth, Coltman, Miller, Streisand, Hendricks, 6-0.
Item 7, update on the Wellness Center.
Other than a few more grants and small grants rolling in, still trying to get interviews lined up. We got sidetracked with a litany of other stuff you'll get in my administrator's report that you'll find out about that has taken over a bunch of our time, but still trying to finalize that, and then the group is still out getting money, still doing that and receiving money before the end of the tax year. So that's a big one. Like I said at the last meeting, we're seeing more donations rolling faster than we thought they were coming in. So, and then I think this winter, starting in December, me and Nick you'll start seeing that bond discussion come back up, so that we can start planning for that in the spring. So.
When does the annexation happen for the land?
We'll annex it at the point that we have all our utilities in there now, so we'll just ask the landowner what portion of that they'll want, and then we'll annex it in, so. But we need to plat it, and so we just wanna know what their plat is as soon as they have sketched out with their developer what that plat will look like, so. And again, if you, it's been quite a while, but the plan now is to put it on the east side of where that roadway is kind of cut out now, rather than the west side, which is the last plan we saw. We just didn't have time right before the vote to flip that, but it's a better use and will sit better for the intersection at Waverly and Carroll K because of the topography that's not really developable. With this being so flat, it just sits on there better, and so I think that's the only major thing it's not different. We talked about it towards the end, but we just didn't get the graphics and the design laid out right before the last few weeks. But other than that, still going up there, still going on the same amount of land, and the design of the building will be exactly the same, roughly. So that's where we're at on that.
Any questions or Greg? If not, we will move on to the city administrator's report.
Just a few items, I had to write them all out here. The first one is just continue to keep in your thoughts and prayers. Tim Richtig, our wastewater superintendent, he's still really battling up there in Omaha. So, if you want more details or information, get a hold of me, but just put out good vibes and prayers for him and his family. So, we miss him and we hope we get him back here soon, but that's going on. And then also, if you didn't hear, Councilmember Wilkin and then Councilmember-elect Tonia's father passed away last week, and we stopped by the visitation. I think the funeral's tomorrow. So just a lot of sad news right now in some cases, and affecting our city family here. In good news, just kind of a neat thing that we got to experience just from the Parks and Rec side. I saw it over the last 2 weekends. Last year, our boys and girls basketball programs, the boys had 19 boys sign up for rec basketball and 23 girls signed up for rec basketball last year. This year with a revamp by Adam Bodie, myself, Coach Mankey, and Coach Bislowski, we were able to we have 91 boys playing rec basketball and 61 girls playing rec basketball. So a huge substantial increase thanks to those coaches and then their high school players for their time that they put into redeveloping that and reinvigorating it, and kind of getting off the ground. The hope is only to make it better, but this is kind of the redevelopment of the basketball programming in the city, and this is the first step. There'll be more to come, but I commend both coaches for their work. That's a substantial jump. That's huge. Our council members elect orientation, I think tomorrow me and Derek will kind of finalize the orientation packet. We're looking tentatively at that next Tuesday, December meeting, doing the orientation beforehand, because we know we kind of have your night that night anyway. So Derek will reach out to you, but Rich and Megan, and then we'll talk to Tatum. We'll get a hold of you about that. We're setting up emails and finalizing the orientation, all that stuff, bring them online, get you your budget books and all that fun stuff. So look for an email on the email that we have for you, or we'll contact you by phone. An item that's going to come up early on in December, but a forewarning now, and you may be aware of this going on around us, is that burn site. We're going to have a serious discussion about the burn site. We had a huge fire down there that I got called, you got called on, everybody got, Rummery was calling me. Ended up not being a big issue, but with it being so dry, we haven't ignited it in 3 months, and it's somehow still, it may have been somebody threw something in there, but we're not going to call the fire marshal. It's not unusual for even the compost pile to combust. We don't think that's what happened in this case, because we actually saw it on the cameras from Rummery. It started like right in the middle of the burn pile, but that sat dormant for 3 months. And so with those dry and drought conditions, that thing is really, really dangerous. So it needs to be very carefully taken care of. What we're seeing is just getting too big, and that is due to commercial use. It is the commercial users coming in and doing all the tree work that they do, or dropping off lawn clippings and leaves. And leaves are the worst right now because they just blow all over the place and can easily move the fire from one place to the other. And so we're just so limited on space down there. We're going to have a really serious discussion about what our options are and what our usage is. And one of those conversations has to be the commercial use, because that's what's filling it. I mean, we have our trash haulers paying $100 a year to go around and pick up everybody's lawn clippings and everything else, and then they're just driving down there and dumping it there for us to deal with for $100. And they're making way more than $100 off of that. It's just one of those things we need to work through that. As I know it's a great community amenity, but I don't want to have the liability. And I know the fire department hates it, because when it gets really out of control, they're just down there with the pumper trucks because there's no water. But I don't know that we want to spend $70,000 to $100,000 to take a water main down there just so we have a hydrant. It's expensive. The other is that land is commercially developable, and so we need to, if it ever develops, we cannot have a burn site next to a commercial development. So we need a long-term plan. There's a lot that needs to go into the discussion of this. But I want to forewarn you on that, because we've got a surprise inspection, and they said, yeah, you can't do this because of the grass clippings and stuff. They're just too close because everything's so big now. So that's a forewarning on that one. Civic Center rules and regs, that's a big one that we've been working on with Aaron over there. And we'll have some new people assigned to Civic Center. And then the last big one for us and the finance team is we'll be doing audit this week. So Thursday and Friday we will have all the auditors in City Hall going through that process. So we'll be pretty darn busy for the rest of the week, prepping for audit and then actually having them come in and implement it. So that's my report. I can answer anything else you got.
Any questions or comments for Greg? Otherwise, I entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor of Beck, Camperth, Coltman, Miller, Streisand, Hendricks, 6-0.
Alright, reviewing future requests for council agenda items or administrative action. Seeing none. Jonathan Jank, Announcement of upcoming events. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. All right, our organization has our quarterly board meeting this upcoming Monday, the 21st, and we'll be approving both our annual budget and upcoming multi-year strategic plan. Of course, Saturday, after Thanksgiving, the 26th, will be the 12th annual Seward Christmas Festival. Lots of fun for the whole family. The event schedule and local holiday calendar is now available online, and this does include the Santa House schedule as well. We have wonderful Santa Clauses and Mrs. Clauses that will be joining us this year. Please promote this upcoming event and always remember to shop local. Thursday, December 1st, we'll have a professional development luncheon to discuss how business and the arts can work together to make a community an attractive place to recruit and retain workforce and talent. We'll have a panel of speakers who are experts on this topic, and we encourage you to participate and join us in this important discussion. And quick reminder, we've posted our Director of Marketing and Storytelling job opening, and it will close this week. Please share this with people who may be interested in working for the Chamber. With that, that's all. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Jonathan. And with that, we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please register your vote. Please display the votes.
Vote in favor, Beck Campbell, Coleman, Miller, 700, 6-0.
Thank you all.